Blooming Falls. Tonight is going to be kind of a different one for all of us because the strangest thing happened. Well, it's not all that strange that I would lose something, but it is strange that 2 minutes ago I had tonight's playlist in my hand, and now it's gone. So all the great music I had planned to spin for you tonight is coming straight from my memory. Not the end of the world. I mean, this is an independent radio station, so I can play just about anything. But it will make for an interesting evening for you, because now I am going to have to play just whatever I feel like. I know it's not all that different from how I am most nights. All of you night owls that stay up late with me usually let me indulge in winging it a little bit. But tonight you might get an extra flighty version of me, and more than your usual share of indie pop. Just giving you an apology at the starting gate.
Charles, is that you? Oh, good. Come on back here with me, honey. I was just about to lock that door and head to bed early for the night. Well, early for me anyways. Oh, there you are. I was starting to think you weren't going to come by. Oh, yeah? So you found yourself a little busier than you expected. Small-town policing might be different, but not any less busy than the big city. You don't say. Those two women actually did that? Huh. Well, those two women have been trying to outdo each other for years. They were always trying to see who could buy the most expensive car or some foolishness. All of that started when those ladies' children were in middle school. Miss Bailey's boy won the spelling bee, and Miss Yates was in second place. The competition was on after that, and those two women have been pushing their kids, husbands, grandkids, landscapers, beauticians, and nail boutique gals to insanity, trying to help one of them top the other. So was there any other excitement this first week on the job? Oh, well, yes, I guess the local drinking spots would keep you busy. Now, the one you were talking about is owned by Tilly King. Her daddy was mean as a snake, and so don't surprise me none she ended up being able to handle any rough customers that may end up in her place. Now, that little bar she owns used to be owned by a man named Rooster. Rooster was kind of a crusty old man, and I never dreamed he would give up that bar, but from what they say, Tilly King walked into Rooster's trailer one Monday morning, and by Monday night she had the deed to the bar, and Rooster packed up and left out of town. Been a good mystery in this town all these years as to what Tilly King had over Rooster to make him pack up and run. Uh-oh. Let's see who that is. Hello?
Hello, Mama. It's Mabel Ford.
Oh, hello, Mabel. Is everything all right?
No. Everything's okay. I just had a question. Have you seen her girl's red jacket?
Well, no, I haven't seen it, but now I haven't really looked out in the shop for anything that looks out of place either. Hold on, though. I got the new sheriff deputy here with me for a visit. I'll ask him to look in my lost and found.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Hold on.
Okay.
If you don't mind, will you look in that closet over there? Yeah, that one. Look on the bottom two shelves and in the bin on the floor. What color did you say that jacket is, Mabel?
It's red.
Oh, okay. Look for a little girl's red jacket. No? Okay, Mabel. We don't see it, but How long is your granddaughter staying?
Well, she's gonna stay 2 months.
Oh, well, that's a nice long time. I will look around and see if I can find it.
Well, I saw it's boring, but it is her favorite jacket.
Oh, I understand. It is sad she lost her favorite jacket. I'll be on the lookout for it.
Okay, with that though, I'm really appreciate all his help.
Okay, Mabel.
I'm sorry for looking this way.
Don't worry, honey. You know I'm always up late.
I just like too, like, it's just, but I didn't say so.
Okay, Mabel.
And every Jim does have his cookie out at one point, she had this weekend.
Okay, Mabel.
Yeah, okay, well, you have a good night.
Okay, Mabel. You have a good night now, Mabel.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, that Mabel can talk. Oh, yeah. Honey, she just wanted to know about her granddaughter's lost jacket. I know it's a little late, but I don't mind. People know I have a knack for finding things. Actually, if you think you are ready, this might be a good time for you to see one of those things I told you about. A while back, I told you that if you stayed in Gloamin' Falls, that I would show you things you wouldn't believe. Gloamin' Falls is a different kind of place, and I want you to see what I'm talking about. But why don't we start with something small? What do you think? Okay, so how about this? Mabel Floyd hasn't been in this shop in years, and as far as I know, her granddaughter never has. But you see, people know I have a knack for finding lost things. I've never told anyone how I do it, but I can sometimes find things people really need or want. So how about tonight you and I will go someplace special, and I'll show you one of the interesting parts of Gloamin' Falls. All right, go look beside my back door and grab my keys. You can drive. Okay, now to get where we are going, I need you to just head toward Main Street. Now while you are driving, let me explain what to do next. Once you get on Main Street, I want you to just start driving toward the lake. I don't care how you try to get to the lake or what streets you take. Just from Main Street, I want you to start heading in the direction of the water. You see, the place we are trying to find can only be found if you are lost or absent-minded. It is only found when you are wanting to find it, but not actively looking for it. Don't you make that face, child. After all you have seen in this town so far, you are going to doubt me? All right then, here we go. Turn onto Main Street and start heading toward the water. Now, since you have no clue where you are going at all, I'm expecting to find the place faster than it takes me. Just drive in this direction and focus on the fact you are looking for a place to find lost things. Just keep repeating the name Trade Winds Avenue to yourself. No, don't ask me for directions. Just drive in the direction of the lake and put your thoughts into going to a place where you can find lost things. And we will arrive in no time.
Okay, guys. I've gone ahead and picked out a few non-indie pop tracks for you this next hour. I'm going to once again apologize for losing my set list for the night, and all of you having to listen to my panic as I try to wing tonight's show. All in all, though, losing my playlist for tonight has given me more excitement in the past hour than I usually get on a typical weeknight. It's amazing how losing one piece of paper can change the course of an entire evening. Not just for me. My absent-mindedness has also played into your night as you listen and experience your world to the tunes I play. It's like this everyday thing, this one sheet of paper with a small amount of compiled song names, has a magic hold over our night. How we move throughout this evening might be somehow altered by the extraordinary magic of the ordinary. Just how important are the ordinary objects in our lives? Stop to think about one object in your purse or pocket. Pull out any random key or your key ring and think about the ramifications of losing just that one simple thing. A key can be an important item, so what about something less important? What about the coupon you got handed for a free drink at your favorite restaurant? If you lose it, does it really impact you or others? Would not having it change your mind about when you would normally go? And who might you have interacted with on that trip? According to Pixie, a locating app for Apple phones, the average American spends $50 yearly replacing lost items. And where does a thing go when it's lost? It feels like it just ceases from being and might never be recovered. It was taken from our dimension and transported to a place where all lost items get sent. Yep, the Dungeon of Lost Things is just waiting to house every set of keys, every lip balm, $5 bill, every pair of earrings and ink pen that has been sprinkled by fairy dust by the fairy of negligence. And we all seem so intent on keeping that dungeon full and its warden employed. It definitely feels like magic that made the item I was just holding in my hand disappear. And if you really think about it, the magic doesn't stop there. It travels outward as the ripple from the lost item goes out into the world and changes life because, well, another ordinary object is just gone. Well, anyway, here's a song that I do actually remember I planned on playing for you tonight. It's Running Home by Inkblot.
Okay, you are doing a good job. I can tell because things are starting to look familiar. I know it sounds odd, but think of it this way. There is a place where lost things tend to end up, but for you to find this place, you have to be lost. Now, I seek this place out about once every 2 or 3 months. You don't want to come more often than that. If you visit more often, then this place just tends to start getting easier to find, and you don't want just anyone coming up on this place unless they are lost and using it to find their way back from being lost. When I come here, I'm looking for any item small enough for me to carry back. The owners always seem to have a way of finding their way to me. People just think that since I own the town junk shop, I just end up with their lost items because someone dropped it off, which is sometimes true, but I am also going out to seek what wants to be found. Now, for me to find this place, sometimes it takes me 20 minutes and sometimes a few hours. I turn off of Main Street toward the lake, and instead of actively trying to find it, I just focus on driving. I drive and think about how I want to find the place where lost things go. I don't try to drive there by memory or force my path. If I try to do that, I won't find it. I say the name of the road in my head and just let my mind kind of wander. You know when you found your road when you pass a large metal piece of art that resembles a windmill. Once you pass that, you turn on the very next road, and that is where lost things end up. Some things might start to look familiar to you, like things do to me now, but only use the metal windmill-like artwork as a kind of landmark. Oh, and speak of the devil. Now slow down. Doesn't matter what side of the road it's on, just the next road is our road. There it is. Just turn here and stop the car. We walk from here on out. Pop the trunk. You're gonna find 2 very bright flashlights and a big laundry bag. If you don't mind, grab all that and I'll explain some more. Now, this street was named Pond Road originally by my uncle, but then as time went on, he gave it the name Trade Winds Avenue. It's just a loop. There's a small pond that the road circles around, and then you just end up right back here. So this road is basically a road to nowhere. So what we do is we start walking. We walk around the pond and right back here to the car. We look for anything we can carry back, and we leave after only one loop. Also, if you don't bring something back with you, it will not be here the next time you come. Tonight is your only night to bring an item back with you. So are you ready? All right. Well, let's go. Now, you don't have to walk off the road. You just walk on the asphalt and shine your light onto the road and off into the grass beside it. If anything is there to be found, then you'll see it. Oh, did you feel that? Everything just stopped. Listen. Don't worry. Keep moving. You'll see. It's okay. It's going to be strange for a minute, but you'll get used to it. Just keep moving with me. It's okay. But you feel that, don't you? It means we have entered into the place where lost things are. But don't worry, I promise it's okay. I hate the feeling too. It's like all your senses are muted. Don't spin your head too fast though, because having your senses so dampened, it kinda gives you a little vertigo when you first cross over. You get used to it. Just keep moving with me. It'll be okay. The strange feeling really does go away. Just keep moving and listen to my voice. Like I said, my uncle named this place. I don't know why he eventually ended up calling it Trade Winds Avenue. I mean, as you can tell, there is no wind. Maybe because of the windmill type thing at the end of the road? I just always assumed it was so we could talk about the place in public without anyone knowing where it was or what we were talking about. My uncle was the first person I know of to actually look into this place and figure out how to come back. It all started when a few of the folks moving into the area or traveling through would tell us about this pond they found. We would tell them there was no pond, and as years went on, no one really paid any mind to it except my uncle. He started keeping track of what these people said and noticed that every single person who talked about this pond had gotten lost near the lake. And it didn't seem to matter what side of the lake either. If you were near the lake and couldn't get your bearings, you ended up seeing this large windmill-looking piece of metal and then would find a road. If you turned down the road, these people said you looped around a tiny pond and it put you back out about 2 miles from town. Like I said, no matter where you were near the lake, you would end up 2 miles from town. And anytime anyone went looking for this pond, you could never seem to find it. My uncle was a quiet, shy, and contemplative kind of man, and he went a-looking for it. It took him 6 months, he said, and one day he got lost up north of the lake inside what is now the state park. He was so far away from town it would have taken him half a day just to walk back. Well, he ended up here on Pond Road, later called Trade Winds Avenue. He never told us about this place until he had to, after an incident involving some money. My uncle came home one day wearing a shiny new ring, saying he found it. And that ring was a big, gaudy-looking thing, and it didn't really fit him. About 2 weeks after he found it, a man we didn't know confronted him on the street, yelling that my uncle had stole his ring from him. My uncle explained that he had found it, and the man still yelled at him, saying he didn't hand it over, he would kill him. That is the first time I've ever seen my uncle mad because he didn't like being called a thief. He almost stood up to the guy, but decided against it and handed over the ring. My dad asked around, and the man was visiting a relative and had been in town for about a month. He lost his ring while sitting in his hotel room, so he just assumed my uncle stole it. What'd you see? Oh, look at that little stuffed animal. What is it? Oh, a little stuffed dog. Looks old. Okay, well, go ahead and pick it up. What'd you jump for? Oh, did it scare you? Those little boogers creep me out too, but they are harmless. I caught one once, but I don't suggest that because they are wiggly little fellas. I just hate you can't see them when you're looking straight at them. It's okay. They really are harmless. Now, so the curiosity doesn't kill you, they look like inchworms, and they move like inchworms, only they're about as big as your arm. And I know, I hate that I can't see them either unless you're kind of looking in one direction and they're in your periphery. They give me the heebie-jeebies, but like I said, you're okay, I promise. It's okay. Pick up that little stuffed animal. I bet someone is looking for that poor thing. All right, let's keep on walking. Now, you don't worry yourself about any other things you're going to see out here. You don't bother them, and they won't bother you. Come on. It's about 2 miles walk, and I'm an old lady. You don't want me to walk ahead without you and break a hip, do you? What, honey? Oh, yes. Okay. So see, after that ring, my uncle had more trouble. About a month goes by, and my uncle all of a sudden starts spending money. He wouldn't confess how he got all the money to my daddy, and my daddy wouldn't let him inside the house without knowing how my uncle was able to buy new clothes and spend time in the saloons and pay for dinners with all these new lady friends that cropped up, and even try to spend money on me. This was also out of character for my uncle. My uncle didn't come around for a few months because my dad was scared he got himself involved in something dangerous. One night, though, he comes crawling up on our porch, beat up and bloody, and no money because he said one of his new girlfriends had taken it and had a couple of guys beat him, so he couldn't chase after him. My daddy forced his baby brother into telling him the truth about all of it, and he not only knew something was wrong with the money, but now he had suspicions about the incident with the ring a month before. Oh, look there on the road. What is that? Oh, a watch. A pocket watch. Oh, it has an engraving? JCP. Huh. I'm not sure who that is. Put it in the bag and we will find out sooner or later. So anyway, my uncle eventually shows me and my dad this place. Took us all day walking to finally get here because my uncle never thought to let me and my dad try to find the place since we didn't know where we were going. We have learned a lot since those days. When we did find the place, the first thing that happened is I found an old pair of shoes I had left beside the lake one day. My dad had been mad because shoes were expensive to us back then. They were too small now, but my daddy remembered them, and it was enough proof for my uncle's story about the place to be true. So when you are here during the day, it don't look too different from our world. When you cross over, noise does change, your senses dull, there is no wind, the sun seems to dim a little, and you still get that same sense of vertigo for a time, but there are no critters. So it really is only at night that you get a full sense of how different this place is. What? What? Why are you looking at me like that? Because if I brought you out here in the day, it wouldn't have the same effect, now would it? I like the shock factor. Oh, stop your complaining. This place is the kind of thing that gets you excited, and I know it. You want to go back to the car and drive me home and pretend you never saw the place? All right, then. Let's keep walking. So my dad, my uncle, and I started coming here after I found the shoes, and my dad had the idea that this place might be useful. But we took my uncle's experiences as a warning. We never brought back things for ourselves. That's what we decided was how we should approach the things we find. What if the things you find are dangerous to you if you try to use them for yourself? I mean, they belong to other people, so you give them back. That was our idea at first, and it seemed to work. The first thing my dad brought back was a shovel, of all things. It had initials in the shaft and looked, well, used. My dad brought it back and took it into town saying he found it. Nothing came of it for a while until a boy showed up at our house asking for it. When my dad gave it to him, the boy just acted very happy and ran off. Soon enough, a man shows up with the boy, thanking my daddy for finding this shovel. The man had a strange story, but I guess really not all that strange. It was just that this shovel had belonged to his great-grandfather. And with that very shovel, this man's great-grandfather started his farm that grew, and he then invested in railroad, and that grew, and now this man was the owner of a large-scale mining and railway operation. He said his son, which was the boy he had with him, had gotten ill, and they were told to travel out east and see if that helped the boy. Well, Gloaming Falls had some rumors at the time that the waters coming from the falls would cure illnesses, so he and the boy showed up in town, and the man was so superstitious he had brought that shovel with them for good luck. Somewhere between their last destination and Gloaming Falls, the shovel got lost. The man was so happy to have it back that he gave my daddy $25, which was a fortune to us. My daddy turned right around and invested in that man's business, and that is how my family became a little, well off. So it has been like that ever since. You come here and you bring people's lost things back. And I don't believe in karma rightly, but occasionally you can find yourself with some good luck if you don't use people's things for your own use. And some very, very bad luck if you do. Oh, that's a good question. Now your brain is kicking in. Yes. This place changed over time just like everywhere else. This place changes pretty much every time the main road into town changes. Like when they put up the electric poles into town, all of a sudden this road had electric poles that seem to connect into town, but really don't. According to Planning Commission maps and the electric company, according to anyone, this place don't exist. When the main road was paved, this place was paved. The only constant thing about this place is the pond, the windmill, and the road itself. Look there. Is that a set of keys? Well, you have found yourself what I call a definite. Definites are things people use every day, and when we take it back, the owner will definitely show up. Everything eventually calls out to its owner, but definites will call out and get returned just within a few days. Yes, you are correct. The things you find out here are only attached to Gloaming Falls. I figure maybe other places like this exist, but this is the place where Gloaming Falls stuff collects. You never seem to find electronics out here, though. Never found a cellular phone, and really you don't ever find anything bigger than, say, a microwave. Biggest thing I ever found was a guitar. We should be getting closer to the water now. You start to see more critters from this place when you get closer to the water. The things I call trancers are the only things I have ever seen that really interact with us. They are actually cute little things but have sharp teeth, and when you see what they do to those giant inchworms, you will realize why you should stay away from them. The trancers stare their big eyes at those worms, and it puts the worms in a kind of trance. Then the trancers just snatch them up and eat them. They make a nasty mess of it too when they start eating. There's the pond. We just keep walking and we'll be around the pond before you know it. Oh, look there. You see it? Yep. That is a trancer. Cute, ain't it? You can let it come closer. Just don't touch it, and even though they are a lot easier to see, don't look straight into its eyes. I've never had any trouble out of them, but let's not tempt fate. Oh, I don't go near the water now, so don't ask me what that splash was. My uncle said there is a kind of fish in there with a flat body like a flounder, and it has very small front arms, but a tail in the back too. It reaches up and grabs them inchworms and even the trancers. He says the fish can't come very far up out of the water, but it is fast. I don't go near the water. I sit and look at it during the day sometimes, but it is calm in the day. You hear the things a moving around at night. What? Where? Don't touch it. Don't even get near it. No. Just keep walking. No. This is important. We should never bring anything living from this place to our world. Shoo. Go on. Shoo. Shoo. Come on, keep walking. Shoo. Shoo. Scat. Scat. Let's go. Come on, keep walking. Let's walk a little faster. Let's not let it start following us. What? Yes, maybe it will end up food for one of those other animals, but that doesn't bother me. It can go on about its business, and if that means it gets ate up by a big fish with hands, then that's fine with me. Nothing from this place can go over to where we live without someone carrying it over. And please understand, we just don't bring back any living things with us. I'll explain, let's just keep walking. Alright, I'll tell you the story, but I need you to understand this happened a long time ago when I was a teenager. I wasn't privy to all of it until it was all over. I've told you before, I am older than you will think imaginable, so let's just say that people were riding around in a buggy and wagon at this time. My uncle showed up when I was about 16 with a little girl in tow. She was covered in dirt and mud, and her little flour sack dress was almost black. Her hair was matted and was brown for what we could tell, but she had these bright, piercing blue eyes. So my uncle walks up and into my house holding this little thing by the hand, and she was a shy little thing, and she was tiny. I thought I was looking at a child only about 6 at first. Well, my uncle says he found this girl while walking near the pond. This made me and my daddy nervous, but what can you do? I don't think we could have left her out there either, especially at night. The girl just walked up beside my uncle and grabbed his hand while he was walking around the pond looking for things. My uncle could be a peculiar fella, so he just didn't think to ask any questions of the child. Just thought she couldn't stay out there. So when she came walking beside him and then held his hand, he just kept walking to our house and figured we would just straighten it out there. The girl just started off in a daze and would only really look at you with any light in her eyes if you got directly in front of her and talked to her. She would do what you told her, like sit in a chair at the table, and then if you put food in front of her, she'd eat it like she was starving, but then she'd just stare. It was obvious the girl had been through it, and it was our first theory that the girl had been lost. She was someone's child that got lost and ended up on Pond Road, and she just didn't know what else to do, so she sat down. She never started walking, so she never ended up back into town. Thing was, we really didn't recognize her. We did all we could do. We fed her, and when she wasn't eating, she would just stare. We tried to ask her questions, but she wouldn't answer. She would look at you like she saw you, but then just kind of stare past you and not move. So I gave the dirty little thing a bath. It took me 3 tubs of water, cleaning the tub in between each bath. When I finished with her, I put her in one of my old dresses and sat her on the couch, and we all just kind of sat there marveling at her. See, now that she was cleaned up and staring at us, we could see that she didn't have brown hair. She had red. That dull red hair was the clue we needed to recognize the child. We looked at her and quickly whispered among ourselves. I was excited about the possibilities this child represented. My daddy was scared and very uneasy and showed some signs of just outright fear. And my uncle just talked about the child like she was kind of a science experiment or a morbid curiosity like a two-headed calf. See, now that she was all cleaned up, we recognized the child. This little girl was named Agnes, and her mama and papa lived right outside the town. This child had died about 3 months before of whooping cough. We had a child sitting in front of us we had all three seen buried. She was sitting on my couch and starting to fall asleep. The three of us sat up half the night trying to decide what to do. My daddy was the only one of us scared, but couldn't say what should happen now. My uncle and I were thinking maybe she was just like all the other lost things. Her parents missed her, and now here she was. She showed up on Tradewind Avenue. She had to survive on her own for a while out there, and now she's back. My daddy said it wasn't right or natural, but what do you do? Now that this child is sitting here just falling asleep in your living room. So by dawn, we all made the decision. My daddy left and stayed gone most of the day. Late in the afternoon, he came up the road, and beside him in his old wagon was the mama and daddy of this little girl. They came into the house and went all wide-eyed and blubbery at the sight of her like you would expect. The girl, though, came to life when she saw her parents. She went from just this lifeless thing to at least making eye contact, and after a while even started to try to talk. It wasn't a huge change, but noticeable enough. It was like the more she interacted, the more she was learning to be a little girl. If her mama talked, she would try to repeat her words. If her dad got in front of her and touched her, she would imitate. She was hugging on them and putting her hands on them. My daddy had spent the day trying to explain to the parents about the pond road, but it took seeing the girl to convince them. Exhausted and just wanting to sleep by that evening, we came up with a loose plan. The parents would take the child home and claim that the mama's sister died and the child was her niece. The child was the spitting image of her mama, so having a niece that looked like her daughter, well, stranger things have happened. So they took the child, and my dad was going to check on them the next day. I slept like a log for a long time, because we had been up for almost 2 days working on the problem the child posed. My dad went and checked on the family the next day, and reported the little girl was talking and started even playing a little. He was concerned about the parents, though. They seemed tired and were a little listless. They both seemed to let their thoughts wander some, but with your dead child coming back to life, wouldn't you be a little tired and out of sorts too? So the plan was, in a few days, we were going to check back. We went on about our lives, and a few days later I went to visit. The girl saw me and ran to me just like any little girl would, and she was talking excitedly about a new dress she was going to get in the mail. This family was poor, so I congratulated her and asked her where her parents were. She told me they had both gone to work in the neighbor's farm, which I knew was how their family made a living. I did wonder when they might send the girl on down to the schoolhouse, or if they would. I just handed the girl the bread and jam I had brought and told her my daddy would check back in a day or two. As I pulled my horse around and headed back to home, I felt the girl watching me go, and it felt wrong. It made me uneasy. I turned to look and couldn't believe it, but the girl was right behind my horse. Now, I left her on her front porch, and I had my horse at a gallop down the road a ways when I started feeling uneasy. She could have still seen me from her front porch, but seeing her right behind me and not on her porch, a good piece away, didn't make any sense. Also, her eyes looked a little bigger and her mouth a little wider, and when I turned and saw her, it startled her from being on all fours to standing up on 2 feet. That child was running on all fours after me. I turned the horse and yelled, and I told her to go back home. It was just a knee-jerk reaction. She was still a child in my mind. She turned and walked back home without a word, but with a look on her face like I had spoiled some fun. I kept my eyes over my shoulder all the way home, and when I got home, I ran in and told my daddy everything. He and my uncle then left and set back out to this family's house. They stayed gone most of the night and didn't come back until midday, covered in soot and smelling of smoke. Now here's where I'm going to confess something dark to you, and I hope you won't judge us too harsh. And if you want to go about arresting somebody, well, my daddy and my uncle have long since been gone. They told me that they went back to that house, but stopped to pick up the town preacher. Preacher Black he was a good man. My daddy only told him a very refined version of events. A girl showed up, looking just like this couple's dead girl. The couple took her in, and it was obvious she had no kin. Now the girl was acting odd, and would the preacher come looking at her? When they showed up to the house, it was dark, and no lights from a single lantern or fire came from the house. The little girl answered the door, and she told them that her ma and pa were sleeping when they asked for them. Then, when they said they would come in and wake them up, she said that they were working in a neighbor's field, like she told me. And when they pointed out that it was nighttime and that they shouldn't have been in the fields, the girl seemed agitated and tried to close the door. When they stopped her, she hissed. But not like you see a cat hissing. No, she opened her mouth way too wide for a person and exposed a bunch of sharp, long teeth and moved her head back and forth while making a hissing noise like a possum might. Then she scuttled into the darkness of the house. Well, a testament to Preacher Black, my daddy said he acted like this was just a usual Sunday business. He told them to grab the guns and lanterns they had brought, and when they were all ready, they went in with him praying out loud. Yeah, I have lots more tales about Preacher Black. He is a good man. Well, he was a good man. So they lit the house with lanterns and put a fire in the fireplace, and since the house only had 3 rooms, it wasn't hard for them to figure out the girl was in the parents' bedroom. Daddy said with a few deep breaths, they bust into the room, and before really any other action could be taken, the girl leapt at the men from across the room. It was the preacher that shot her, used my daddy's big shotgun, and ripped her little body almost in half. She didn't die easy, though. My sweet, shy, naive uncle is the one who put a final shot into her head after she kept trying to get to him. They said her whole head had kind of changed shape, and she had grown a little fur on her arms and legs in that little bit of time. Now, don't look at me like that. I know I wasn't there, but you look around this place and you tell me you doubt my story. Oh, yeah, well, yes. I am sorry it happened, but that little girl could have killed them all 3. And if she had lived, or been able to figure out how to be human, and had grown up to have babies, what then? It's not what happened that night that keeps me up late. It's the whole, what if they hadn't killed her part. That's the part that scares me. We brought this thing into this world. We brought it from over here to this place where there are lost things, to over there in our world. Her parents were dead, and from what my daddy said, they looked like they had long been dead. They had been eaten on like most predators ate things. Soft tissue was gone first, and now she was just gnawing on muscle and gristle and bone. The preacher had told everyone that he had heard the couple had been ill. He had brought the 2 men along to check and found the house on fire. Who was going to argue with the preacher? And my daddy, he was the original founder of Gloaming Falls. We quit visiting this place after that, but soon enough a reward came through from an old lady who was willing to pay somebody who found her late husband's favorite hat. My uncle came back, and sure enough, he found the hat. We just made the promise after that, no living things cross over with us. So you leave that cat here. Look there. We are almost to the car. Soon enough, we will cross back, and you can feel it when it happens. Shame we didn't find that little girl's jacket, though. Oh well. Maybe it will show up next month. Oh, it's starting to rain. Come on, child. Shake the tail feather back to the shop. What? Oh. Well, I have wondered about that sometimes, and to be honest, I don't know. It's possible that the things we find aren't really what belongs to the people and came from somewhere else, but only occasionally does anything do what my uncle calls a switcheroo. A switcheroo is when something is slightly different from the way the person remembers. For example, say you find a piece of jewelry, and you take it back home, and eventually the owner comes a-calling. The owner then says it's theirs, but they don't remember it having that extra gem, or why is there a silver link in that gold bracelet? Never amounts to anything, though. The owner either does or doesn't take it with them, and if they do, nothing has ever seemed to happen that was bad. But why do you think things change? I've wondered at times if maybe this place doesn't give back what people have lost, but does in fact do just a switcheroo. What if it swaps people's things here with things from other places? What if it just makes this stuff? Yes, sir, just like that. This place makes these things from people's heads. And that's why sometimes these things just come back a little different, because they're actually coming from people's memories.
Good night, Gloaming Falls. Thanks for sticking with me through such a crazy evening. And let's all try to remember not to sweat the little stuff. Losing one little piece of paper wasn't the end of the world, and it just made our night a little more interesting.
This was the Mama Night Owl Oddities and Curiosities Shop podcast. Music from the show can be found at farpointband.com. The show was produced by Kevin Jarvis and narrated by Summer Jarvis. If you have a story that you think belongs on Mama Night Owl or music you want featured on the show, you can send an email to mamanightowlpodcast@gmail.com. If you like the show, the best way you can support it is to give us a 5-star rating. We hope to meet you again in Gloaming Falls.